my issue with back pain started at a very young age. I was 12 years old, and I was in a pretty severe car accident at that age. I spent a long time in the hospital recovering, and then spent a lot of months in physical therapy. And as the years went on and I went into my teen years, my scars started to fade from my stitches and all the external things, but the back pain just didn't go away. It stayed and actually kind of got worse and worse and worse as a teenager and when I was in college. And in my 20s, I did start working in fitness as a fitness professional. So I would work with other people with their bodies, and I found that movement really did help with my pain to an extent. But I'd move in certain ways that would help the pain, but then the next day it would be back again. So it was kind of always this battle of trying to keep that pain at bay. Mm-hmm. But when I was 28, it got so bad that there was truly nothing that I could do about it, or at least I felt at the time that there was nothing I could do. And it was so bad that I could barely move, and I had to stop working full time for almost an entire year. And I would just kind of lay around at home. I would lay on the floor on ice packs because for some reason that was the most comfortable position to be. Yeah, and at a very young age too. And I remember at that time just feeling so hopeless, thinking, "Oh my gosh, I'm so young." And I think we tend to have this notion that as we get older, we're going to have more and more pain, which I have come to realize is a myth, and that doesn't necessarily need to be the case for people. Mm-hmm. But at the time, I was in that mindset. So I spent that year just, it was like a full-time job trying to get out of pain, going to chiropractors visits or acupuncturists or massage therapists, everyone I could think of, trying to find to relieve my back pain. And because, of course, I wasn't working. I was going into debt from all of the medical bills. And finally, I went to a back surgeon who told me that my only option was surgery, that nothing else was going to help this problem. And that was the turning point for me because I believed him. A big part of me believed him. He was an authority, obviously, and an expert. But I thought, I'm 28 years old. I'm too young. I can't do back surgery now. I knew that a lot of times when people end up with back surgery, it leads to other issues down the road. Mm-hmm. So that's when I just had a complete paradigm shift with how I was going to approach it. And I thought, I have tried everybody that I can think of to try to fix my pain, and now I'm going to try to figure this out myself. And I was fortunate enough that I did have a background in exercise science and fitness, and I used what I knew about anatomy and muscular imbalance and kind of experimented on my own body and found out how to get out of pain on my own. And once I figured it out, it was actually very simple and a very fast process, and I've been completely pain-free now for over a decade. It's not the kind of battle that I have to keep at bay anymore. It's just gone. When it comes to back pain, a lot of people focus on just stretching because they feel their muscles tight and tense and they think they need to stretch them out. And that's definitely important. But I needed to combine that with the right type of strengthening moves as well, especially for core work, especially for the inner core muscles. And doing that in a way that I made sure my pelvis was aligned the right way as I was doing those strengthening moves, and then stretching the right muscles to kind of release the hips. So it was a combination of things. Now, I have worked with clients who they're literally just one stretch away from being pain-free. Some clients can do one stretch if there's just one muscle causing the problem. Mine was a more severe problem, so I needed more of a sequenced approach. But that's how I figured it out. That's
pretty awesome, though, because you had the tools, but you didn't even realize it. After seeking out all these other, kind of, I don't say Band-Aid fixes, but ultimately, if we're able to control our own destiny, or get to a good place physically or pain-free from doing movement or something that's natural versus having to just numb yourself, because unfortunately that's where a lot of people are at. They're in pain, like you said, not moving. You're at home, you're kind of like miserable, maybe even a point of depression, because
absolutely
without movement, I know how I get. I was, in fact, on one of the previous podcasts that we've done on this trip, I was talking to somebody about, I get, just a period of days can go by, and if I'm not moving my body, it really starts to impact my thinking and my productivity and stuff. The two are so closely related. So obviously that's fantastic that you were able to do this for yourself and then know I can do this for other people. So that's pretty awesome. So what was it that really turned things around for you once you came to this discovery? And you're like, what was the mindset at that point? Like, this needs to get out there, or?
Actually not at first.
Okay.
At first, obviously, like I had this incredibly healing experience for myself, but I was used to working, more just in fitness and working for gyms and studios. And so at first I didn't really know where to go with this because I knew it wasn't going to fit in a gym space or any of that. And I also didn't have a medical background by any means either. So, but I did eventually, I knew I needed to get this out there to people. I didn't know where to start. So one day, I was actually in my son's preschool building, which is also in a church. So the church rents out rooms for the preschool. Yeah. And I saw this space in the church in their basement, this big room that was vacant. And I thought, I wonder if I could start holding classes here, teaching people what I do in this church basement. And I made a deal with myself that I was going to talk to the church about it and ask them if they'd let me rent it out. And I was really nervous to do that, though. I'd never kind of gone out on my own like that.
Yeah.
But I made a decision. I said, okay, if they say yes, then you have to do this, Emily. If their answer is yes, then your answer has to be yes, and you have to have the guts to do this. So they said yes, and I ended up opening a studio inside that church basement and holding classes for people there.
That's great.
Yeah, and it was the perfect setup because I knew that I wanted to reach people. I wanted to reach people in pain, and I know how hard that is on people's lives and how hard it can be for them financially. So I wanted a way to reach them without having to charge them much. So the church basement was the perfect solution. I didn't have to build out a storefront. I didn't have to, I had low overhead, and I could just open my doors to people in the community who needed it. More and more doctors are kind of starting to prescribe movement and yoga and all of these things for pain. Yeah. So I do definitely have more women than men. Yeah. But that was also a big turning point for me too, because most of the people who come to my classes are older too, or older than I am. Most people are 40 or 50 or, well into their 70s coming. And so that was a huge realization for me too, that the method that I used for myself was working just as well for them. Because I knew it worked for me in my 20s. I didn't know if it would work for people. And that's what shifted my mindset too, into realizing that age does not have to equal pain. Because now I see it through them, and they inspire me with that.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah, it's pretty neat how it works. That's cyclical. They come to you to be inspired and to get to a better place, and then you're inspired by their journey. Absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of cool how that works. So 10 years now has gone by. Yeah. You said that you've been out of pain, and you're still following through this route. How often are you still going through these movements that you've come up with and developed? To stay where you're at in a good pain-free place?
Well, probably no more than once a week, to tell you the truth. Just as part of I kind of incorporate them into my workout routine once a week. And even if I don't, I typically don't have any problems. Yeah. If I've had, if I'm traveling, obviously I've been flying a lot, sometimes my neck and shoulders will get tight. Yeah. I know now exactly what to do to stop that before it starts turning into a bigger issue.
Right, exactly. So, you can tackle it fast. If you start to get those feelings, you can kind of use the program to get out of it. That's pretty awesome stuff. And so it's been really a whirlwind now for you the last couple of years since Back to Life is really taken off. And so and you're not, like you said, you still do some instructing, you're still doing a little bit of that. Yeah. But what do you find that you are, I think you said that, it's hard to break away all the way right now. Yeah. You still have a strong desire to do some of that, that teaching and that instructing in that environment. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I love doing. Yeah. I would still be there every day of the week if I could. But, the business of selling the videos now is so time consuming.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I know. You have to prioritize your time blocks, and be like, well, I need to devote my time. We go through this at work all the time. It's there's so many different things, but what's the main thing I need to focus my efforts on? That's where I gotta put it.
Yeah.
And if there's anything left over, I have a few other things that maybe I can give time to. But you're a mom.
Yeah.
You have a couple of boys?
I have 2 boys.
And what are their ages?
They're 6 and 9.
6 and 9.
Yeah.
So, obviously, you got to be a mom too.
Yes.
Anyone listening right now, if you're interested in the Back to Life program, I urge you to go to beatbackpaintoday.com. If you go to that link, you'll be able to find out more information about what Emily has created and what it's doing for people. I love the page, because as you're reading through it, there's so many great stories and real situations, people that have really been impacted by what you're able to do through these very simple movements. Now, this is non-equipment based stuff, right? This is something that people can do at home. They could do it at work, right? They could do it anywhere in a very short period of time.
Yes. In fact, the first video on the program is a 10-minute routine that people can do in their chairs, because I know for a lot of people in pain, it's hard for them to get down on the floor.
Yeah.
So you can do it in your chair. You can do it watching TV while you're at work.
Yeah.
I wanted to make it easy for people to fit into their lives, because that's the most important thing, is to just do it.
Yeah. And that's exactly, that's what the success that we've had with other programs is complex does not work for most people. Complicated does not work. The simple solution is oftentimes the best, where they say less is more, but it comes down to what, the movements have to be, well thought out, but they don't have to be complicated necessarily, but it's how you stack them together and they build off of each other, obviously. And then it just comes down to consistently doing something, because most of us just struggle with sticking to a plan, or even having a plan to begin with, So this gives them really great, proven, obviously, movements that'll help relieve them. And it's kind of, would you say it's a stretching and strengthening routine? Is that how you would describe it?
Yeah, it is. Although the strengthening moves are probably not what people picture. You're not lifting weights.
Correct.
But it's body weight stuff. And really, when it comes to core strength, it's also training your core muscles to actually engage. Not only building strength in them, but training them to engage. Because so much of us, we don't engage our core without really putting that thought into it. So.
No.